We've all heard about family farms, but who are the farmers? Eric Savek, Tyler Savek, and Jordan Savek. Together they run Savek Farms, a family-owned farm for more than 100 years, and Savek Meats, a one-of-a-kind online meat store. And this is their life on a farm.
Hey everyone, how's it going? So we always talk about getting ready to plant corn. Well, what does that mean? So we are going to take you on a trip around the farm, show you the various equipment that is used. So this here is the disc chisel. This is the very first thing that we use after we've picked the crops in the fall. And what this does is these blades are spaced roughly about 6-7 inches apart, and they cut up all the corn stalks, and then following those blades lined up pretty much directly behind it are these teeth. We run those about 8 or 9 inches deep, pull it good, and these teeth throw alternating directions, so it mixes up the dirt, the corn stalks that are there, buries them really well. And generally we try to do this before the winter if we can, and that allows the corn stalks to break down a lot more for spring, requiring less for us to do. This part here on the back, this is called a buster bar. Well, we call it that. It's not necessarily what it is, but this basically just smooths out the ruts that are left by the teeth, because the teeth leave pretty deep ruts, and if you are going across them and not with them, it's a miserable time to drive. It's very important when you're using the disc chisel that you work it deep, like almost to where the tractor couldn't pull it, but you want to make sure that you stir up the ground real good. Otherwise, the ground will stay really firm from all the driving over from the combines to the grain wagons and spreaders and stuff like that. And so the whole purpose of this is to break it all up and turn it. It'll keep weeds down, it'll bury the corn stalks really good, and it will eliminate the majority of the possibility of anything volunteer coming up in the next season. So, we just talked about the disc chisel. Now this is just a straight up disc. This is our sunflower disc. The disc is used primarily after we disc chisel. You can run it before that, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. But like with the disc chisel, you still run it about 4 to 5 inches deep, maybe 3 to 4 inches, depending what you're looking for. But this will smooth out all the ruts from the disc chisel, and it will chew up any remaining trash typically. Unless you had really thick corn stalks or a lot of just barley stubble, wheat stubble, those usually aren't too much of a problem, but if you do have a lot of it, this will usually finish it off pretty well. Alright, so this is our newest piece of equipment that we have on the farm. This is called a finisher. So what the finisher does, after you've disc chiseled and after you disc, you go over it with this. Alright, so the spacing of these blades is a little less than the regular disc, but this once again will chew up the trash that is remaining and left behind by everything else. It'll chew it up, spread it out, and make the field look really nice. So this has an adjustable depth individual of the rest of the equipment. So you can run it 2 inches deep, you can run it 4 inches deep. However deep you want to run it, you can do it. After this, then you've got these sweeps. Now these are kind of like drag shovels and chisel plow shovels, except for the one distinct difference: they run level. So when you are pulling this behind the disc blades, you generally want this at about 2-3 inches, or well, I mean, you can have it at whatever you want, but the idea here is that it levels everything out and begins the firming process for the ground for when you plant. That way you don't plant too deep. And so this is, the depth of these can be controlled independently from those disc blades, because this is just the main frame of the equipment. Then, after the sweeps, you have tines. So the tines will pull behind the sweeps and it'll make the ground more solid for when you're driving on the ground with the corn planter and the tractor. That way you're not leaving tracks 3 inches deep, 4 inches deep, and this way the seed from the corn planter is not seeded too deep, because if it is, it has a hard time growing. Now we can go on to the corn planter. So this is the final step in the preparation. And so what happens is these are filled with the fertilizer that we use. It kind of helps jumpstart the seed when you're planting it. And then, well, I guess we'll go through the whole process here. There's a squeeze pump right there that runs all the fertilizer down and into these discs. Now these discs right here will go into the ground first, and as they go into the ground, they open up a channel for it, and it puts the fertilizer in. Then, as you progress, right behind it, this is a seed disc right here behind this press wheel. The seed disc, once again, will open up the ground a little more, and there's a hopper kind of like this, except it sits right here, and it funnels seeds down through a tube, and it drops them into the trench that was made by the first 2 blades. Then the press wheel will come alongside and it pushes that dirt back into the trench, bearing their seed at the desired depth. And then this just firms up the ground right beside it. So this is a 12-row corn planter that is 30 feet wide. Now, when the hoppers are on here, you put 1 bag of seed per hopper. And you think you got a big garden? Well, we've got a bigger garden. Each bag has, I think we looked at it once and it was like 86,000 seeds per bag.
80,000.
80,000. 80,000 seeds per bag, which obviously is a bit more than the average home garden needs, but we're not the average home garden, are we? So per acre we plant about 24,000 seeds, if you can even get your head around that number.